Good morning. We'll go ahead and start on time. I want to welcome you all to the second day of the National Action Network Convention and the Black Male Panel. My brother's keeper. My name is Marcus Bright. I'm the Executive Director of Education for a Better America and also an administrator in the Office of Educational Equity, Access, and Diversity for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And this discussion is going to utilize the tenets, the target areas of the President's My Brother's Keeper initiative as a framework, but it's going to talk about the plight and an action plan for the black male in the United States of America. And we have a very distinguished panel here to discuss this issue and try to formulate a plan of action. I'll begin to my far right. It's a true Renaissance man, youth pastor of Metropolitan Baptist Church in Newark, New Jersey. He's the program director for the My Brother's Keeper initiative there in Newark. He's an actor. You may have seen him on Remember the Titans and other movies. Let's give it up for Mr. David Jefferson, Jr. To his left, he's a radio host, a motivational speaker, a youth leader in the state of Alabama. He's worked across that state to try to provide scholarships for high school seniors there. And he's also the youth director of the Birmingham chapter of the National Action Network, Mr. Carlos Chavez. To his left, a native of Baltimore, Maryland, a graduate undergrad, Holy Cross, University of Michigan Law School. He's been a powerhouse in the public and private sectors, a former deputy assistant to the president of the Clinton administration. He served as chief Democratic counsel to 2 House committees. Currently, he's the assistant to the president, the cabinet secretary, and the chairman of the My Brother's Keeper initiative, Mr. Broderick Johnson. To my left, he's a graduate of Hampton University, president and CEO of the 100 Black Men of America, making the transition from Las Vegas to Atlanta, Mr. Brian Pauling. To his left, since the 2012 death of his son, Trayvon, he's turned his tragedy into triumph and been an inspiration for us all, really. A symbol of manhood, of fatherhood, a symbol of dignity and resilience and strength. Miami's own Mr. Tracy Martin. To his left, really one of the burgeoning civil rights leaders in our country, in the forefront of the fight for civil rights, of workers' rights, all across the Midwestern region of the United States, specifically in the state of Michigan, a Eastern Michigan University graduate, preacher extraordinaire, activist extraordinaire, organizer extraordinaire, the pastor of the historic King Solomon Missionary Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan, and the president of the Michigan chapter of the National Action Network, the Reverend Charles E. Williams II. To his left, we were just with him in Los Angeles, California, one of the best grassroots workers, just a real servant in the Watts section of Los Angeles. This brother, for the last 15 years, he founded the We Care Ministries, which provides safe passage in some of the most dangerous sections of Los Angeles, California. He goes where many folks are afraid of going and makes a tremendous difference. Let's give it up for Elder Michael Cummings. To begin to open up this panel, again, this panel is going to be framed around the My Brother's Keeper initiative. So 6 target areas. 1, making sure that kids are ready to learn when they enter school. 1, making sure that they're on grade level by the 3rd grade, graduating high school, college and career ready, completing post-secondary education, entering the workforce, and then reducing violence and providing people a second chance. We're going to begin this panel with remarks from the chairman of the My Brother's Keeper Task Force to really set the tone for this conversation, Mr. Broderick Johnson.
That's good. All right. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to try not to mess with your screen. It's a real pleasure to be here on this warm April morning here. I feel like I still live in Michigan. It's quite chilly, but it's great to be here. It's very, very warm in this room. I send you greetings on behalf of the President of the United States. It's so great to always be able to say that, and we have 20 more months when we can say that, but he will always be President Barack Obama, and he will always have left a tremendous legacy for us, including the work that I get to do for the My Brother's Keeper Task Force and other things for the President. Thank you, Dr. Bright, Marcus Bright, very much for the opportunity to be here and for you leading this panel and for all the great work that you do. And to Reverend Sharpton and the National Action Network, it's a real privilege to be here today and to be on this panel and for all the great work that goes on across the country. I do want to start, though, by acknowledging and expressing on behalf of the President and the entire administration some thoughts about South Carolina. Of course, we've all seen the video of the shooting of Walter Scott. Say the least, it's deeply disturbing and incredibly heartbreaking. I have 2 sons. I think about my son's reactions to seeing these things, and I can protect them in so many ways, but there are other things I can't protect them from, and that might be the nightmares and the sadness that accompanies these incidents. But all we can do is hold on to them and try to make a more safe society. Nevertheless, our thoughts and prayers are with Mr. Scott's parents and children and other family members, and really all of us, because we are all impacted by what happened. The state of South Carolina has filed criminal charges, and the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division has announced that it will be conducting a concurrent investigation. And I can assure you, I think you all know, that Eric Holder, who continues to be the Attorney General of the United States, certainly will conduct a thorough and fair investigation in this case. But out of respect for the criminal justice process, we won't comment otherwise as this begins to be investigated. But I will say this, and again, reflecting the views of the President, as a nation, we have to continue to work on ways to prevent this and other tragic encounters between law enforcement and people throughout our communities. We have a lot of work to continue to do. The President, as you all know, launched a task force on 21st century policing. And there are a lot of common sense recommendations that are in a task force report. We just need to see that the things that are in that report take hold in the communities across the country. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends and community members in South Carolina. I was privileged to be with the President when he was in Selma, Alabama for the 50th anniversary march. I get to do a lot of incredible things, but that was one of the most remarkable moments, certainly in my life. And as the President said there that day, quote, "It's the idea held by generations of citizens who believed that America is a constant work in progress, who believe that loving this country requires more than singing its praises or avoiding uncomfortable truths. It requires the occasional disruption, the willingness to speak out for what is right and to shake up the status quo. That's America." And the President talked about that in the context of the exceptionalism of America as demonstrated by people who walked across that bridge 50 years ago, and for all that's been done to advance freedom over the years and decades since then. That is America, and that's the spirit of the National Action Network and everyone gathered here today, the willingness of all of us to speak up and make sure the promise of America is available to all of our citizens. Look, we all know that too many young people in this country face extraordinary odds, especially boys and young men of color, especially African American and Latino and Native American boys and young men of color. We know the statistics, we'll talk about those to some degree today, about the likeliness of boys of color growing up in low-income families and growing up in concentrated poverties, born to teen mothers, fathers who aren't as involved in their lives as they should be, as oftentimes we all know fathers want to be, by the way. There's a bit of a myth out there that fathers of boys and young men of color don't want to be involved in the lives of their children. There's an incredible story. It's a tragic story, but there is some redemption in the story, too. 2 days ago in the Washington, D.C. area, a father of 8 children who had turned his life around and was working hard to raise those children. The family died in a tragic carbon monoxide incident, 8 children. But what was so redemptive and powerful about the story was that father's commitment to raising those children. They said he was raising the boys to be men, and he was raising the girls to be good women. And so we know there are lots of stories like that that don't get talked about oftentimes. This was a man who was working very hard to raise his kids. Again, we pray for them as well. But I'm not going to go through the statistics about the high crime and the poverty rates and all those sorts of things. I want to talk about what we are doing to turn things around, and is exemplified by the people on this panel, the work that they do, young brothers like this brother from Birmingham, who are taking responsibility by themselves to make a difference, not just in their own lives, but to be role models and peers throughout their communities. Last month, we celebrated the 1-year anniversary of My Brother's Keeper. And thank you. It's happy birthday. It really is. That was an extraordinary day, you know, among other things, when the President of the United States gives you a deadline to do something. You're quite proud to reach that deadline. We had a report due to the President on the anniversary. We presented the report to the President that day, February 27, 2015. But there were a couple of other things that happened on that day at the White House that were extraordinary and that go to the President's personal commitment in this work. When we started talking about how MBK, as we call it, was, among other things, to help build mentors, the President said, well, we need to have a mentor program here in the White House. We need to use the African-American men, especially who are in this White House, who can be role models, to invite young brothers in from the area and to work with them. And the President said he would be committed as well. So on February 27, 2015, the President, and you all know his schedule is extraordinarily busy, sat down for lunch with 18 African-American and Latino boys who were part of the White House Mentors Program. That was his third encounter with these young men over the course of a year himself. He spent 90 minutes in lunch with those young men, and they just talked about things like, how are they doing with their college applications? What is their speed in the 40? How are they doing in terms of dating? All these sorts of very, very personal things the President shared with them. But there's one comment that really stuck out, and that the President used later in the day. There was a young man there who said he wanted to be Attorney General of the United States, right? Attorney General of the United States. And the President, as he does, just sort of laid out for him practically what that would mean. Well, let's see, you're now 17, you're going to college in a year, you got to go to college, law school, you got to pass the bar, you got all these other things. So you might be 40 before you could be considered to be Attorney General, but that's okay. And so it's very practical, again, as the President does. But later that day, the President did an unveiling of the portrait of the Attorney General, Eric Holder, at the Department of Justice. And I would invite all of you to go on YouTube or go on the Department of Justice website and watch the President's remarks that day as the President was talking about Eric Holder and he started to tear up. He mentioned this young man and what this young man had said several hours earlier at lunch about who he emulated, who he wanted to be like, and about it being Eric Holder. And you can see the tears well up in the President's eyes as he talks about how it wasn't about being president or being a CEO, but it was about following in the footsteps of Attorney General Eric Holder, who is a man of incredible character. So that speaks to the possibilities, right? And that speaks, again, to the level of personal commitment that the President has in this work. You know, we all think, and I'm sure we all feel the same way, the work that we do is important to help young brothers like you. But we get a lot out of it ourselves. Let me tell you, we get choked up when we think about how we can affect your lives. So no one should ever think that it's all about us just giving. We get a lot in return in the work that we do. Over the past year, the work of My Brother's Keeper has really focused a lot on the local level. There are nearly 200 cities and tribal nations across this country that have become MBK Community Challenge communities. That means that they have adopted the work that gets done that we will talk about today, from cradle to reentry programs, focused again on the recommendations that the President issued about a year ago about changing the lives of boys and young men of color especially. So these communities are working, and they are developing action plans, and they are getting about the work that gets done at the local level where it matters in order to realize what the President has laid out. In addition, there are over 60 superintendents of the largest school districts throughout the country that have committed to work on these issues. Each superintendent individually signed a pledge back last summer to do this kind of work. At the private sector level, more than $300 million in grants and other assistance is going out across the country to communities to do this work. The task force, which I head, is an interagency task force. And just think about this. The president established a cabinet-level task force, which means that there are 12 cabinet secretaries who are part of the My Brother's Keeper task force, which then means that their agencies are committed to do things to change federal programs to make sure that they are more effective in impacting the lives of all children, but especially boys and young men of color. The Secretary of HUD will be here, I think, later today, and he'll talk about My Brother's Keeper. Secretary Arne Duncan will be here tomorrow, and he'll talk about My Brother's Keeper. But that's extraordinary when you think about it being a cabinet-level initiative directed by the President of the United States. And that is also important because of the sustainability of this work. We cannot allow this work to create a lot of hope and a lot of opportunity, and then in January of 2017, when Barack Obama and Michelle Obama leave Washington, to have the work go away. So we have to make sure at the federal level, but most importantly at the community level, that we build sustainable work. So I'm very, very glad, of course, to share our insights and our thoughts about the work ahead, what we're planning in the second year of My Brother's Keeper, and beyond that with the great panelists who are here today. And again, on behalf of the President of the United States, thanks for having me.
Secretary of the United States of America. I've instructed every panelist to, because we have such a broad representation in terms of task and in terms of geographic location, to just kind of give their own, however they want to contribute in terms of an action plan for My Brother's Keeper, things that we can take back to really make a difference and feed into this initiative. And I'll start to my far left with Brother Cummings representing Watts.
Amen. Good morning. Elder Michael Cummings, We Care Outreach Ministry. I'd just like to thank the National Action Network and Reverend Al Sharpton for you giving me this opportunity. Is it on? Yeah. All right. Elder Michael Cummings, We Care Outreach Ministry. First, I'd just like to give honor to God. Thank God for being here. And want to just thank the National Action Network, Reverend Al Sharpton, for having me here today, and also just like to give honor to our Western Regional Director, Reverend K.W. Toulis, for selecting me to be here. Thank God for him. When we talk about My Brother's Keeper and black males in Watts, what some of the things that we are doing, I created a program called Safe Passage. Jordan High School, I'm the director of safety there to make sure that the kids can get to and from school. Jordan High School is adjacent to the Jordantown housing projects. And what I do every day with the Safe Passage is make sure that the kids are not getting harassed, forced to be in any gangs, not to get pocket checked. So that way, when our young men can get to school, they don't have to worry about navigating themselves way home. Amen. They know that we're out there advocating for them, and also created safe havens. In other words, I deal with the hamburger stands, the stores, the markets, the churches, the community centers there in the neighborhood, and I have a sign there that says safe havens. Amen. Those kids can actually go in there and be able to get any type of assistance if they need medical assistance or need to call the police or somebody. Those clerks there at the counter will be able to call me or call them and get them some help. And also we have a program called Project Fatherhood, where we teach young fathers how to be fathers. Because some of the young men that's growing up in our community don't have a father, so it's always great to be able to teach them how to be fathers. If we want to be successful with our young men today, we have to continue to teach, because there's no more big mamas and no more big daddies, amen? We have to continue to teach on a daily basis to show them what to do, to show them how to do it, and to show them the way to do it. Because if we don't, then we're going to lose our generation. And also, we create some jobs for them. The Jordantown housing projects is fit to be redeveloped, and in the next 6 months, maybe here, it's a $750 million deal So what we did is went to the developer, and I was able to get 30% of those jobs in writing for our young men. 30% of those in writing. In other words, we have 10% hard to hire, so if you're just getting out of prison, you'd be able to get a job. 10% that actually live directly in the Jordan Down housing project, and 10% that live in the outskirts of it. So that's 30% of jobs. But when I did go to the developer told me that we would hire them if they're certified. So we went out and raised some funds and took them to Maxine Waters Educational Center there in Watts, and we took them to We Build program, which actually gets them ready for construction. So I went out and we put 28 young men in that program. Then I went out and got them all tools, boots, helmets, whatever they needed, so it wouldn't be no excuse. Actually, we had like 22 young men finish that program, or they're actually working right now. So we just have to continue to teach to make sure that our kids can go forward. Because if we don't take care of our future of tomorrow, who's going to take care of them? Thank you.
Thank you. This is an example. He did just leveraging what was already there in the community. So tremendous example of.
It definitely what actually brought me out there back in 2000 on 103rd and Juniper. What brought me there was a young man that was killed there. I grew up in the neighborhood there. It was a young man that was killed. He was shot in the head with an AK-47. And as I got to the scene, his mother was crying, the community was crying, and I thought about it. I said, if I was out here every day, maybe I could have got in between those two gangs and maybe could have been a mediator for him. Maybe this young man would be alive. And actually, I'm still there today, and I'm going to be there until the end. But we just have to continue to teach, because our young people is having babies at 13, and then they raising babies, so babies raising babies, and then when that baby is 13, they having the baby, so we got a 26-year-old grandmother, and then that baby is 13, now we got a 39-year-old great-grandmama, so what is the baby learning? We got to continue to teach. But we can't be scared to get out there and talk to the young men there. We just have to get out there and ask them, how's your day? What's going on? And they will open up to you if we want to save our generation, especially our young black males.
Thank you. There's not a better activist in the Midwestern region of the United States of America than the Reverend Charles E. Williams II. Let's hear from him right now.
Good morning. Certainly, give another hand to Michael Cummings is certainly a wonderful, inspiring story, because to listen to that story only really highlights what we all should be doing, right? You know, God called Cain and said, where is your brother? And he asked the question, am I my brother's keeper, right? The understanding is that Cain killed Abel. Many of us, we killing our young people every day. That's right. When we are not engaged in knowing where they are. That's right. Hello, somebody. That's right. So what has happened is many of us have disconnected ourselves from the areas where our brothers and sisters need the most help. That's why I was glad to hear that the president would take in young men throughout the year and sit and at least talk to them. They need that, because they need to know that somebody who is achieving cares. 50 years ago, in our communities, we was all forced to live together. So your mama might be on welfare, but across the street was a dentist, down the street was a doctor, around the corner was a teacher. But now, because we done got so uppity, we got so much money now. We don't live in those communities anymore. We live out where they got trees and Walmarts. Right? Stuff. We done got disconnected from the place where our Abels are and our sons and daughters are. So they're roaming around aimlessly in those communities because we have abandoned our duties. So we have to get to the point when we talk about am I my brother's keeper or brother's keeper and the sister's keeper and the minority kids and the kids that are in the urban community, when we talk about urban education, we can't talk about urban education without excusing ourselves. I would act up in class in school, and my main worry was my father gonna be peeking through the door? But now folks just wanna dismiss their kids like school is a daycare. There is a disconnection. And that disconnection is usually the personal responsibility that we have to take. Nobody's asking nobody to take an oath of poverty. But why is it that we can't clean up our own communities? Why can't we be committed to our own communities? They don't want you out there anyway. That's why they're shooting you. Understand this. Everywhere the violence we have seen take place, from Sanford to Ferguson to what we saw in Inkster, Michigan, to what happened in South Carolina, they didn't happen in the major city. They happened in the suburb of the major city. So to some degree, someplace, at some point, we have to take responsible for the communities that grew us up. We got to go back to those communities, and we got to know where our brother is and know where our sister is.
Amen. When I think about the black male father in America, the image of Tracy Martin comes to mind. Let's hear from him now, my brother's keeper.
Good morning. Honor to Christ, who's definitely the head of my household. Want to give thanks to Reverend Sharpton, Dr. Marcus Bright, who found it not robbery to have me come and join this distinguished panel again. It's always a pleasure to be in the midst of these certainly great men in our community, and just trying to be something positive in our communities is a task in itself. You guys know our story far too, just as good as we know it. And I think with this My Brother's Keeper initiative, it just exemplifies what we as fathers, coming from a father standpoint, what we are lacking, what we are missing, and what we need to get back into. One of the, when I think of My Brother's Keepers initiative, one of the main focuses that I like focusing on is getting our young men, our sons, to release the anger that they have amongst their fathers, because the fathers have been so absent in our children's lives. So what we fail to realize is that, My Brother's Keepers initiative is definitely an educational tool, and it's going to elevate us to another level as far as our education. But what about the anger that our kids have? Because they are lacking that fatherhood. If you don't have fatherhood, how do you have some guidance in your life? So I think that it's real important for that guidance to be there. I think that we go back to the days, I grew up with an older gentleman schooling me, so to speak. So now our young men today don't get that schooling because our older gentlemen don't want to be a part of their lives. A lot of people like to speak about this generation as being a lost generation. And I refuse to say that this generation of kids is lost. What I'll say is our generation, my generation, is missing from these kids' life, and we need to get back in their lives. And hopefully, and that's what with the Trayvon Martin Foundation, what we're doing, we're rolling out this program. We're real big with this mentoring program. So we're trying to get the kids to understand from a legal standpoint, from the political standpoint, from from every entity that's dealing with the law. We're trying to get these kids to understand, because we're teaching our kids a lot of things. We're teaching them core values, but we're not teaching them how to apply them. We're not teaching them how the law works, how it worked for us, how it worked again. It's a different law. If we haven't come to realize, it's a different law in the ghetto than it is in the suburbs. So we have to teach our kids, you know, the difference between. We have to teach our kids the difference between the laws in the ghetto and the laws in Providence, Rhode Island. And that's what we're doing at the Trayvon Martin Foundation. And we've actually, in October, we're rolling out what we call a YES program, a Youth Empowerment Summit, which we're going to bring in hopefully 500 to 700 high school, middle school, and some college students, and let the children tell us what they feel the problem is. You know, that's the way that we're going to solve what's going on. We need to know what's going on with our kids. So I'm in agreement when you say that we're not listening to these kids. So that's what we're focusing on. That's what we're targeting on. We're certainly targeting on education. We're trying to be huge on education. I think that one of our topics is dealing with getting to that reading level by the 3rd grade. Well, I'm a big fan of, if your child is in the 2nd grade, he should be reading on the 5th grade level. Amen. And let's stop being content with our kid being in the 2nd grade reading on the 2nd grade level. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of education, I do want to acknowledge the presence of our board president in education for a Better America, Ms. Dominique Sharpton. Also, we have one of the premier attorneys in the United States from Parks and Crump Law Firm, Mr. Darryl Parks, is in the building. Let's hear now from the president and CEO of 100 Black Men of America.
Good morning on this panel with such distinguished men. For those that don't know about the 100 Black Men of America, we are a not-for-profit volunteer organization comprised of over 100 chapters in the U.S., England, and the Caribbean. And we provide services in the areas of mentoring, education, health and wellness, economic empowerment, and leadership. All 5 of those are extremely important, because without the mentoring, you don't have the guidance. And so you have education without guidance. Without education and without that guidance, if you don't have health and wellness, how do you get that education to apply that guidance? Without economic empowerment, how do you ensure that you've made life not only better for yourself, but for the generations to come? And without leadership, we all know what happens if we don't have leaders in our community. Our communities fail. Where there is no vision, the people perish. We have thousands of black men who work in these chapters across the U.S. and abroad that go by the motto of what they see is what they'll be. And it's very obvious that if you don't see an opportunity, if you don't see the ability to be something different, if you don't see the opportunity or the ability or inspired to be challenged to do something different, then oftentimes you won't do it because you don't know any better. You used to say, what's the old saying? If you know better, you do better. And so our job and our focus is in the mentoring space. And we started right here in New York, 1963, 50 plus years ago, mentoring young men, young African-American male men, and then growing from there. Mentors shape lives, and they shape lives for generations. I was speaking to one of our chapters in Houston 2 weeks ago, and we had some new members coming on board, and I just told them, I said, listen, men, if you're here to wear a pin for the prestige of the pin, you got it wrong. Don't come for the pen. Come for the work of the 100. Because we literally have the ability, when we mentor young children, we have the ability to shape the next husband. When we mentor young girls, we're shaping those wives. Then we're shaping the parents, or them as being parents later in life, and then how they will be as grandparents, etc. So we're literally shaping generations. There's a difference between a role model and a mentor. And how we define a role model versus a mentor. I say a role model, the kids know you. The mentor, you know the kids. I see you on TV. You might be a role model. But you call me and check in on me and see how my grades are doing, now you're a mentor. So mentoring is a vital component of what we do. Education is that other piece. And as it was said before, if we continue to fail our children in the education space, then we will cause irreparable harm to them, their families, both now and future families. And we fail our communities. We recognize there's no silver bullet, but you know what? We believe the journey starts with having education, with having access and creating access to high-performing schools for our children. Whether that's traditional schools or charter schools, we really don't care. Our children need access to high-performing schools. We need, thank you, we need our children and our teachers to be held accountable. We need the ability for our educational system to not be a prison for 12 years for our children. We need them, as he just said, not just reading at a 3rd grade level in 2nd grade or a 5th grade level in 2nd grade. We need them excelling to their very best, and we need to be inspiring them to do so. Just one little story about why mentoring matters, and I'll move on. We had our annual conference a couple years ago in San Francisco, and one of our mentees was given the opportunity to speak on what mentoring means to him. And he said, this year, 4 of my friends were murdered. And every time that one of those friends was murdered, I was supposed to be there with him. But I wasn't, because I was with my mentor doing an activity. So we know that mentoring not just helps children, but it literally saves lives.
The next young man that we'll hear from has been instrumental in helping high school seniors get college scholarships. And I want to acknowledge a person in the room who found me in Martin, Tennessee in high school and gave me the opportunity to go to college on a basketball scholarship. My college basketball coach is here. Stand up, Coach Steve Bernath. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. We'll hear now from Mr. Carlos Chavers.
Good morning. My name is Carlos Chavers. I first would like to start out by thanking our Lord and Savior for another awesome day to be in His presence and to honor and do His will. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the National Action Network and the Reverend Al Sharpton for allowing me to sit on this panel with such distinguished individuals from backgrounds of all over the country. Since the age of 15, I've dedicated my entire life to serving other young people such as myself. I grew up, my mother had me when she was 15 years old. So I was raised practically by a kid my entire life. So my mom and I have a different kind of relationship. It's more like a brother and sister relationship than son and daughter. son and mother because of that fact. But through the work that I do, I'm able to utilize my expertise and my platform to reach other millennials. I found out that the way to reach other young people is through young people, because there's things that I couldn't tell, that I could never tell my mom, that I could go to my colleagues, my friends that share information with. So I go into high schools and I go into middle schools and I go into elementary schools, because I figure the earlier you reach a child, the better it is to solve a problem before it happens. So in high schools and in middle schools, I speak with young people and dig information out. Well, why is this happening? Why is that happening? What's the result of this happening? And just pretty much digging information out of young people to figure out the question of why, and then going back and answering their questions of, well, how can we stop this from happening? What can we do to strengthen our communities? What can we do to be better young people for ourselves? And 2.5 years ago, my father passed away. So in his honor, I created the Carlos Chavez Foundation. I'm a junior, so I created the Carlos Chavez Foundation in his honor. And with that foundation, we provide scholarships to high school seniors that want to, do better in life and exceed in life. But through the foundation, we don't make the requirements so competitive, because we want all young people to still feel that they have an opportunity. Those issues of young people. We speak on sexting and texting abuse, crime rates in our community, teenage dating, sexual assault, even homosexuality as it relates to young people. So through my radio show, I'm able to reach not just young, but those also from older generations, so that we can bridge the gap between younger generations and older generations, and for older generations to be able to understand younger generation, and vice versa. And in Birmingham, we have it's not so bad when it comes to police brutality and things like that, because we have such a wonderful mayor who's also part of the My Brother's Keeper initiative, and we have a great Christian police chief, Chief Roper, who also works alongside President Obama on a plethora of things. But through the work that we do to empower young people, it is really to one, dig information, find out what we can do to assist other young people, and to also, let young people know that there's people here in your communities that are willing to step up and help. Friday I went to a high school, a private school, and 40 college recruiters had been to that high school, and none of those recruiters had, all they wanted to do were pretty much recruit them for their institution. But none of them actually had taken the time out to tell them about great internships to be a part of, for their choice. Since I've been here, I handed them all my personal cell number, and since being here, I've been working on finding those young people in that school internships for their fields that they want to go in, and also mentoring programs. We offer mentoring through the Carlos Chavez Foundation, but we do a mentoring match program. So we mentor you with the person or people that will equip to you better, that will better suit your personality and the things that you enjoy in life. I pretty much try to be of assistance to our young people. Every day I'm in the communities fighting for young people, leading rallies, visiting, trying to take young people on trips. We take young people to visit college campuses. A lot of people don't do that nowadays. We have the Civil Rights Institute in Birmingham. We take young people out to the Civil Rights Institute to learn their history, know their history, study their history. We teach young people how to write resumes. They don't do that in high school. We teach them how to interview well, how to dress well, how to prepare themselves for the next level. And so I try to step in and do the things that other people won't do for our young people, because me being young, I hate seeing other young people follow different roles or just do terrible things. And I've made mistakes in my life. Everyone has. But we can't allow our future our past to define us. And what I try to get other young people to realize is that is not where you are right now, but it's about where you want to go. And in order to get there, you have to live every moment. You have to define every moment and create. I teach them creating plans, write things down. It's all about where you want to go in the future. But this moment right here is the moment that you have to realize and hope for to get you to where you want to be. And that's what I try to get the message out to other young people.
DJJ, not the Department of Juvenile Justice, but David Jefferson Jr. Very involved individual in the church, in entertainment, and with the City of Newark's implementation of the My Brother's Keeper initiative. Let's hear from him now.
Yeah, this one doesn't work, but you know I need to be heard. How's everybody doing this morning? So I got to tell somebody, tell him right away, he's been good. God's been good to me. He woke me up this morning. He started me on my way. He's been good, y'all. I have to honor this young man who is leading us on today, Dr. Marcus. You constantly raise the bar. You are an example. Yeah. And we don't encourage each other enough as brothers. And so I just want to encourage him in what he exemplifies, and then I want to honor my uncle. Fondly, I call him the Reverend Al Sharpton. Yeah, let's give him a hand. Then his legacy is in the room in the front row. I honor Dominique Sharpton, my cousin, if you will, as well. But also to these fine men who are gathered here today on this panel, and, you know, speaking personally with a few, and to know Broderick and the work that he's been doing out of the White House, and to sit next to this energy with this young man here, Carlos, is just, it is contagious, right? And so I want to share with you, first of all, greetings from our mayor, Mayor Ras J. Baraka, who was here on yesterday. And I also want to bring greetings from my father, Dr. David Jefferson Sr., Esquire of Metropolitan Baptist Church. Yeah, I'm Baptist, so we have to get that out the way, right? But this is an exciting time for us as black men in America. This is a time for us to stand up and be accountable. Our President Barack Obama has done something that only God could call him to do. He has put an initiative in place, and he poignantly named it My Brother's Keeper. It is not by accident that our president aptly named this initiative and this challenge the My Brother's Keeper Challenge. I think it speaks to the spirituality of the man who is leading the nation, who is reminding us that there has to be a divine location in which we start initiatives. It has been abandoned for a long period of time out of the White House, that we've seen initiatives being led from a divine perspective, right? And so for our president to be so bold and to globally let individuals know that this country is taking a stand with the issues that are happening with young males of color, he is not only to be commended, but we have to keep him in prayer. With his charge came a call for action. With his charge came a call for cities to step up to the plate. Under the leadership of Broderick, the nation has stepped up to this challenge, but most importantly, I speak on behalf of Newark, New Jersey, and being so proud to say that once our mayor came into office, he quickly moved to ensure that not only would he accept this challenge, but that we would hit the ground running, because the city of Newark needed this type of a challenge. Why? Why, do you ask? Because we have a problem. We have an issue. And we have a problem with the fact that when you look at the poverty level in the city of Newark, the statistics are very hardening and they're saddening. We have a problem with the fact that the majority of our young people in our city, 37+%, are living under the poverty level. We have a problem when it comes to the statistic of young people graduating from high school on time. We have a problem when it comes to the economic levels of our community, and the median income within our city is no more than some $17,000 for a single mother with 3 or more children. We have a problem. But I'm excited today to let you know that even though we have problems, when you see men such as us sitting here, these are men with solutions. Yeah, there's some good news, right? And so I understand that in order to solve problems, they take action. So the first thing that we did in our city was recognize that education is going to be the paramount place for us to start with empowering our young men. And that means this: we had to go into our community and create relationships with folks that had power to do something for the voiceless, for the marginalized, right? For these young men who did not have fathers to speak up on their behalf, they did not have men to speak up on their behalf. But because of this initiative, because the president pushed it and the mayor said we accept it, we've been able to partner with a county college, Essex County College, where Dr. Gail Gibson, a prime product right here out of New York, she came over and said, David, we're going to move forward. We're going to push 95 scholarships for young males out of high school to come into college, and we're going to pay for their entry off top. Right? And I know we clap our hands, but this work, Broderick, has revealed some things to me. It has shown me that what I had to do first when we had our initial stakeholder summit and meeting, stakeholders are folks who want to give opportunities and resources to young men. I had to tell the room, if you are scared to help young males of color, now is the time for you to stand, and now is the time for you to leave. Because what happened is, and my operations manager, Will Simpson, is here with me. What happened is, as we started to do this work and we peeled back the layers, we started to see that there is really an underlying principality of darkness that is in place that does not want to help young males of color. And on the news, we see our young men being snuffed out on a regular basis. On the news and the media, we see these trite issues and we see these trite components where we are constantly reminded of the challenges that are happening with our young men of color, but we do not see any type of opportunities that are coming out because the media has put a lens for America that says that when it comes to black males, all they can do is either bounce a ball or sing a song or get shot in the streets. And so we partner with Mentoring USA. We partner with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We've been able to register and sign up over some 350 young men. And our goal is to get to 500 by the end of the month of May. So that then we can put these young men in opportunities for not just jobs. I'm sorry. But the White House is clear when we series with them, and they've outlined some plans. We are pushing young men for careers, right? So what I've been able to do is take these great relationships that I have, that the mayor has within our city. I've been able to go, if you don't know anything about Newark, you may have flown in and out of this small little airport called Newark International Airport, right? Which is located in the heart of Newark, but which does not give any monetary value to the citizens of Newark. They only want to give low-level paying jobs to individuals. But our mayor said, this is a port right within our city. We're taking ownership of what is ours. This is a valuable resource. So now we're able to go to Newark International Airport, APM terminals, and we're able to sit with the leadership and say, open up your executive boardrooms. Let our young men come in and sit down at the table of the executive boardroom. Get involved with the executive leadership program. And so we forced some issues in places where young males of color were not initially being able to work and say, I can become an executive in this particular environment. And let me tell you something. It has been phenomenal to see that we've been able to grow this opportunity. Kind, recognizing that man created race. But it is our responsibility as the gatekeepers at this junction, this poignant moment in time, to not only provide opportunities for our men, which is what we're doing. And so when we were able to come down to the White House, Brother, I got to tell you this, because of your help and the president's help, we were able to take a young man down who was able to introduce the Attorney General of the United States, Taj Atkinson, out of Central High School in Newark, New Jersey. Right? Don't clap yet. Don't clap yet. He goes down for an experience that for these other years, we had not really had an invitation to come to the White House with our young men. He cleaned up nice and put on a suit from our Dress for Success program where we get our guys tailored and we get them suited up. And I've even brought some My Brother's Keeper ties for the panel and for the men who are here today to spread the word. And he was cleaned up. And when he went in, he eloquently spoke and introduced the Attorney General. It was a young black man introducing an Attorney General who is another black man under the leadership of a mayor who is a black man that is led by a nation from a president who is a black man. I don't know. Hey, and I don't play poker, but if that's not a full house, I don't. So listen. So Taj introduces the Attorney General, does a great job. Just yesterday, the Chad Foundation gave him a scholarship. But beyond that, we have other guys like Taj that if we can continue to create these opportunities to let them know you have a voice, we want to hear from you. We want you to run radio shows. We want you to lead initiatives. And then we're going to challenge those who are the gatekeepers with resources, to pour that into these young people so we can sustain them. Thank you so much, and I'm going to keep it moving. Thank you.
We're going to now enter into our short answer. Lightning, North Carolina, Helen Edwards in Detroit, Jeff London in New Jersey, Akil Rose in Harlem, and Reverend Tulos in LA. When they go back, how can they plug into the My Brother's Keeper initiative?
So there are a couple ways to plug in. One, we have a full website available at the White House where you can go on that website and find out if your local community is one that has accepted the president's challenge. So then you can get linked to the folks who are running that challenge in your community. That's one way. Second, honestly, is just contact. I've got full-time staff working with me in the White House that you can contact directly, and then they will connect you with folks in your communities that we are working with. When we brought folks like David was mentioning to the White House, it was all about making sure we made the connections between what we do and what people are doing in local communities so that folks don't have to feel like there's some kind of a disconnect. So there's several ways to do it. Either if online, you can find out about the information, or you can contact us at the White House and I'll make my information available. And really the third way is through your local community, because a lot of the mayors, again, almost 200 mayors have accepted the challenge, and there's a way then to find out locally what's going on. So,
Thank you.
is that lightning fast?
Yeah, it's cool. Mr. Pauling, you mentioned that you all are a nonprofit volunteer-based organization. How can folks in the audience go about recruiting volunteers to help them with their mission?
Well, I think first of all, you have to have a mission. You have to have a mission that matters to those individuals. And that's one of the reasons that I think the 100 is so successful. We have a mission of creating environments where children and their families are inspired to dream, challenged to achieve, and empowered to become economic stakeholders in their community. When you have a mission that people can buy into, you have a mission of where you can bring volunteers to help get the work done.
Thank you. Reverend Charles Edward Williams II. How can the black church be more involved in My Brother's Keeper initiative?
Yeah, good one. You said my whole government name. I think, certainly what we've heard in terms of the My Brother Keeper initiative and what the great work that they're doing is all a part of that. But I think there's another layer, there's another level. I think black folks need to hold the black church accountable. Because we expect the organizations like Michael Cummins who may not have as much money or a resource that it needs. We expect the activists in the communities across the country to fight all the battles, while the pastor, all he worried about is whether he gonna get a Bentley or not. And so they spend a whole bunch of time raising money to buy new jets. But the truth of the matter is, we don't have to go to no corporation and ask them, can you give us some money? We could fund it ourselves if the black church would get itself together. But yet, even through all of that, we'll clap and we'll say that's right, but then we'll go back to that same church that ain't doing nothing.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
We'll play our tithes in places where they're not doing nothing with your money. And but pimping people. And so at some point, when we talk about the black church, and I feel like I earn the right to be harsh about the black church because I'm a black pastor. But when we redirect our resources and we begin to redirect our time and we begin to get these churches together into a place where we can fund our own movement. Part of what Dr. King's dream was when they organized the Southern Christian Leadership Council was that never that AT&T was going to have to pay for the movement. It was because the churches would come together, they would fund the movement, and because that movement is funded by the churches, we have the ability to speak truth to power, and we don't have to walk around with nooses on our necks.
Carlos, how can we best engage the young generation in this work? I have 400,000 students in Miami-Dade County Public Schools alone. So let me know how can I best engage that generation?
One of the ways that I believe that question can be answered is creating opportunities, not allowing the opportunities to create you. You create the opportunities for yourself. A few years ago, I called the mayor of Birmingham. I called his office and said, hey, I want to be mayor for a day. And I created that opportunity for myself, and because of that, I was the Mayor Bell actually allowed me to serve as mayor for a day in Birmingham, and now every year he allowed one other person to serve as mayor for a day. So. It's more so about creating opportunities, taking ownership of the things that we love. Those 400 young people, if you teach them, most of them may like George, most of them may not. Well, it's okay to like George, but invest in George, invest in the things that you love, create stock market, so I believe that you have to create the opportunities that they want to do, the things that they love doing. For instance, high school, I went to high school on Friday. Usually, one of the news stations in Birmingham don't allow high schoolers to intern. They don't allow college students, that are able to receive college credit. Well, I told them that there's some high school students that would like to intern for their network, and now as a result, I was able to pair 2 young people at that news station to intern during the summer before they head off to college. So once they get there, that opportunity is already available for them. So I believe to answer that question is create opportunities, and finding out that what they love to do. Sit down with young people saying, hey, what is it that you would like to do for your future? Not what your parents say you should do, but what you want to do for your future. And then sit down with them and once you figure out what they want to do, when they figure out what they want to do, then create opportunities. Call, network. Call different organizations. Call anyone that you can. And because my biggest thing is I don't believe in the answer of no. I don't believe in no. So many times in my life I've been told no to so many things, but I figured out that my yes is somewhere. It may not be here with you, but my yes is somewhere out there. So I believe create opportunities for young people and invest in what they love is a way.
Elder Cummings, your Safe Passage program, how can we scale it up? We need that, and I'm just gonna speak specifically for Miami, Florida, Liberty City. Over time, we buried, three of our students just over spring break. We did Education for a Better America. We did a 17-school tour, college readiness workshops for the entire, for the entire senior class, voter registration, then bust them to the polls. I'm almost about to get in trouble for that, but the Safe Passage program, how can we scale that up to other communities?
Well, all you have to do is just really just get involved, and we got to not be scared to reach out to the young people. We have to reach them. We have to let them know that we here to help them and we here for them. And we have to show them some love. Let me say something to you, that if you don't show them some love, the dope dealer gonna show them some love. He gonna have their attention. If we don't show them no love, the gangbanger gonna show them some love. He gonna put a few dollars in their pocket, put some new tennis shoes on their feet, and he gonna come to them with an idea. But if we show them some love and let them know what they need to do, we'll have that kid. We'll have them. So that way we'll let them know that on the way to school, you don't have to jump on nobody. You don't have to pocket check nobody. I'm going to get you a job. I'm going to train you. I'm going to show you what to do. But we cannot be scared of our young people today. And if it's so easy to start a Safe Passage. When I first started Safe Passage, it was with no money. For the first 8 years, it was no money. In Watts, it was 21 robberies a day with kids on their way to and from school. We dropped the crime rate less than 6 months, 65%. By just being vigilant, by just being out there. Especially my senior citizens, they sit behind the screen door and they call me, they say, Mike, they finna get ready to jump on somebody. And I go down there. But it's all about networking. It's all about getting on the phone. You got to make things look bigger than what it really is. Because at that time, I was a one man. But I looked like a whole army. Because I network with the stores and network with the people. Don't be scared of our young people. They are our future of tomorrow. Reach out to them. I'll tell you what, if you just stop with that high your day, you'll find out what's really going on. And sometimes it's just that I'm hungry. And I go to the food bank and we get them food and whatever, then he go home back to school. Check on them. And take a village to raise a child.
Tracy, you founded the Circle of Fathers. What is your message to fathers in the country? How can we all step up our game in that capacity?
I think it's important for us to, as African American men, to, like Mike said, not be afraid of our children. Because if you're afraid of your children, what message does that send America? We have to understand that no one is going to give us anything. We have whatever we have, whatever we receive, we have earned it. America is still living in the dark ages. I'm a firm believer. I look back 50 years ago, and it starts with us as a people. 50 years ago, when Dr. King was head of the Civil Rights Movement, our people weren't afraid to go out in the streets and get beat. So we become so afraid to go out in the streets and get beat and lose what we have been given. I don't want to go stand on the front line and be the voice of America because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my $70,000 a year job. 50 years ago, we had a $70,000
That's right.
and we got more accomplished back then than we can accomplish now. So it starts with unifying ourselves. And in order to unify yourself, the fathers have to stand up. We gotta be the moral voices of our own communities. We can't let nobody else come to our communities and tell our kids what to do. So if we're not there for our kids, and that's why I spoke about our young men being angry with their fathers because the fathers are so absent in their lives. We have to get back to being present in our children's lives. Put all the, excuse my language, but we got to put the baby mama drama aside. We got to put that aside and say, hey, this is my child. I'm going to take responsibility for him. The government shouldn't have to force me to pay child support for a child that
willingly conceive what is up to So I think it's the fatherhood initiative, the circle of fathers, it's all about empowering the fathers, letting the fathers get their recognition, the ones that do stand in the gap for the kids. We as African American men have been labeled as deadbeat dads, and it's time for us to change that perception of us as American men.
Thank you. David Jefferson Jr., you spoke about some of the technical assistance in the form of webinars and other things that you received from the federal government. What more do you need from the federal government, and what more do you need from the citizenry?
Oh, that's good. I'll tell you, the federal government's okay. It's really these philanthropic groups that I think it's quite challenging, but I also have this patience because of my faith. But I would say this, Marcus, there's this shell game of folks who say they want to do something, but they don't follow through on what they say. And I think Dr. King said it best. He said, we want a return on this promissory note right here for America. And we haven't, I would say on our end, things take time, but when you tap into these grant opportunities, when you tap into these foundations who are pushing it forward, and we sit on these panels and we get together, we have nice meals and we do these great dinners, but at the end of the day, the money is not trickling to the proper places. And what we have to do, and what I've had to do, is really study, right? Study, because I'm a part of a new generation, and I'm going to put this out here. I'm a young guy who's been brought up with men. My father is an attorney. I've watched Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Jackson through the years galvanize and go into places and be able to get resources. And when it comes to these initiatives, if it's not there, it shows that they really don't want to make the commitment to put it there. But the White House has done a great job of really bringing, I would say, a big brother mentality, for lack of a better word, and saying, we stand with you and showing you who these groups are that have made commitments, and they've outlined who those groups are on the White House website. They allow you to follow up. But then on a local level, there are folks right in our communities who really have funds in place. And our challenge getting this money has been usually because we are not prepared on our end with the proper proposals, with the proper measurable outcomes, with the initial indicators of the statistics that are needed. And when we started to do this work initially, we noticed that we had a data desert in Newark, New Jersey when it came to particularly young males of color. And so we had to start then and work with a baseline of acquiring that data so that then we could take it to these groups who do things a certain type of way. And from there, we've been working this process. But I'm gonna tell you what, once we really get what we need, we're gonna have that next sit down and we'll let the National Action Network know, because we're gonna highlight that first individual who brings in that first major gift.
Nice. At this time, we're gonna open it up to the audience for questions. Reverend Charles White is gonna come to you with the microphone. We'll start with Sister Helen Moore from the fighting city of Detroit, Michigan. She might not even need a mic.
I've been thrown in jail a lot about these children, so for hollering at the meeting at the wrong time, what they think is the wrong time. My question to you young men in the audience and panel is, how can we kill the beast? The sellouts that come into our community that are supposed to be doing things for us and are collecting money on the backs of our children, destroying them in public education, making sure that they don't succeed and go to prison. How can we get rid of these sellouts?
I'm gonna jump on that real quick. And I like how you posed that. I like how you stated that. First of all, we have to make our young people aware, right? What we've been able to do is share the value of what our young men are. And for a moment there in time, I think they were unclear. In Newark, our mayor is very clear with how we address our young men. They're our most valuable resource. As our most valuable resource, we've been able to show them two components as we steer them towards success. We steer them to understand that if there is no investment in their future, then there is a group that is investing in them called a private company called the Penal System, right? And they take an opportunity to ensure that they can put you on a pipeline for them to get money through that opportunity. But then if we put them on a proper path of investing in our most valuable resource, they can get on a path to a career and to success. So we've made them aware in an environment where I think young people in the date of iPads, iPhones, and social media, there was a detachment of young people really understanding their value, if you will, their net worth, and what they really mean on a bigger scale to individuals who do come into our communities, who are able to come in and take resources out. And so now we've empowered them to be able to locate, allocate, and identify when they see something authentic or non-authentic. So we take our young men and we sit them with our police director. And so our mayor has even implemented the fact that if you're going to be a policeman in the city of Newark, you need to live in Newark for 5 years so that you're a part of the community. And we can spot you if you're not a part of the community very quickly, whereas it would take years and years and years in previous time.
My name is Dr. Hawanchi from West Nassau. I raised two young men, and the problem is in the school system a lot. What happened is that some of our kids, like my son, they label him with hyperactive disorder, ADD, and had psychological testing without me knowing, and wanted to put him on a medication called Ritalin. A lot of times with these medications, they have long-term side effects, and of course, I fought the system. So I want to know, as parents, what can we do basically get involved with the school system, with the PTA, so that they don't test our kids without our knowledge, they don't put our kids on medication without knowledge. And so it causes a problem.
I think that's a big point, but I also think you just also gave the answer, and that is, as parents, being involved. If we as parents, because I have 3 children, and if I'm not involved in their education, if I'm not looking at what is this teacher teaching my child, if I'm not involved with going down to the schoolhouse or going over to the school for the parent-teacher meetings or the behavioral issues, any call to the school, I expect to be notified, and they know that I expect that. And when they don't, I hold them accountable. My saying is, what gets measured gets done. What gets done gets reported. What gets reported gets changed. So we have to measure and hold our teachers, hold our students, hold our education systems accountable. We then have to give them an expectation, because if we don't set the expectation, then they manage to what they believe it is. So we have to set that expectation. And then we have to hold them accountable to that expectation, and we have to be involved. And we have to be involved as a community and not just one individual parent. But when my friend's child has an issue at school, I'm involved in that too. When there's an issue in the community or that the school can address, we're involved there. As the 100, we show up to our charter schools. We show up not because we have kids in those schools, but because our presence in those schools makes a difference. Just seeing an African American male walking down the hall can make a difference. A quick story I'll tell. I was walking down the hall, 2 children and a teacher were in the hall. They said, "Who is that man?" And I started to just continue to walk. But I decided to turn around and introduce myself. And I said, "Young man, I'm Brian Pauling. I'm the president of the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas." And that I was the president of that chapter at the time. And I shook his hand and turned around to walk away. And I heard him say, "Wow, I never met a black president." And the teacher said, "And you're going to have that smile on your face all week, aren't you?" He said, "Yeah. And I'm telling all my friends." just in that one little moment of being in a hallway and introducing yourself makes a difference. We have to be in our schools.
Can't hear you, brother. We can't hear you, brother.
Mike's not working.
No, let's speak up.
Speak up.
We can't hear you.
Well, I would like to ask, my name is Mahdi Salam, and I hear you all say that we shouldn't be scared of youth. We shouldn't be scared of Muslims neither, because every Muslim is not a terrorist. And we're in a community in unity. So what advice would you give me, and what can we do collectively to work with Muslims too? Because a lot of our children are Muslim that was Christian. So it's a proof that there are Muslims in our community, and we're all not bad. So what can we do to close this gap collectively so our communities could become so much better? And that's all. Thank you.
Well, to answer your question, some things that we do down in the South in Birmingham is we invite the people that we want at events. So, for instance, we're marching and rallying when Michael Brown died. Well, we didn't have just Baptist preachers get up and speak. We had Muslim preachers get up and speak. We had for everyone from different other communities to get up and allow to speak and represent their communities. So I think that it's a matter of being able to reach out to those people and not being afraid. It's all about not being afraid. And in Birmingham, I can say that the community actually, as a whole, come together, and not just Christians, but Christians, Muslims, any religion at all are able to come together and just become one, because at the end of the day, we're still serving one purpose and one goal. So it's not about and one God. But it's not just about being afraid of others. It's about taking ownership of it and reaching out to them and connecting with them. And I mean, if they're not connecting with you, get connected with them. Reach out to them. I'm big about meeting people where they are. Don't expect people to come to you. If you want someone, go out and reach them. Get the people that you want to be a part of and connect with.
Yes, Reverend Charles Williams. I'm concerned about what do we do and how do we address giving our young people a vision. Because without a vision, then the Bible say that we perish, but that's one thing, but without a vision, there becomes fear. If you don't have a vision and you don't know which direction you're going, then you are afraid. Only thing, and not only that, it ends up with a person in pain. So how do we give our young people a vision? Because if a person have a vision, then you don't have to take them by the hand. They clear on where they want to go. So the most you would have to do is give them, encourage them to move to that vision. But how do we give them a vision? That's my main concern, to remove the fear and the pain that our young men, because another thing is some people didn't want to address the pain, but there are so many young brothers that are dealing with pain. They sleep in the street. I talked to a couple of young guys just 2 days ago. And like I say, it's a lot of brothers. The reason why they act out and they do the things that they do is because they are afraid and the pain that they're dealing with, and they don't feel the love like the Pastor Cummins, one of the ministers mentioned.
All right.
Well, I guess I would just say that really that's what this session and this panel is all about. It's about giving young men especially the vision that they matter, that their country is investing in them because the leaders of this country have said that they make a difference. And we've been calling upon people starting in the Oval Office all the way through to city halls and communities across this country to say these young men matter to the future of this country, and we need to make sure they understand that because we go out and talk to them and ask them what their concerns are. So the other thing I would say is there's a big issue around changing the narrative for a lot of these young men, right? So that they understand that the expectations for what they can do with their lives are different for themselves, but also that people in their community expect more from them as well, and will give them the tools to move forward. So I think the vision is changing. Young men all across, I know in the work that we do, all of us do, you're hearing hopefulness and engagement from young people, young brothers that I haven't heard throughout my lifetime, to be honest. And it's being led largely because the president has said this is a priority for this country.
I actually have a comment to the young lady question. I would like to respond to how we can have the school deal with us. I just want to say I work for the school system. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm a retired person from New York State. It is illegal for a school to test your child without your permission. That's a law. They can't do it without you. And the second thing I would like to say, most of us have the answer to the questions that we're asking. Get involved with your kids at home, then your grandchildren, and in the community. And number two, where I live, upstate New York, the majority of our African-American students, predominant black school district, predominant white school teachers. Expectation is down here. We have to bring the expectation up here. Just on, let me just say this, and I'll sit.
All right.
Just on Tuesday, I was at school, and a little black child was acting up, the white teacher. I went over, we need to know this, and I said to the young kid, I said, I dare you, do not act like you don't know how to be a student. Do not embarrass me, because I know you know how to be a student. Let's go outside and talk. I took him outside and talked. He was good for the rest of the day. I spoke to him. I said, thank you for being a student. Bring the expectation up for our students.
Thank you very much. Just in fairness, let's try to limit one person, one question.
Question.
Yes, excuse me. I am a professor of sociology in Houston, Texas. And one of the things that the panelists stated is that for men and women who are interested in going into business or creating foundations or nonprofits, there is such a lack of data, not just on the negatives of black people, but the positives. You know, if you're going to ask various organizations and all of these companies for money, it's not enough that we just can say these are the negatives, but there are lots of young people that are doing great things, and we don't even have the data from many of these organizations, NAACP, National Action Network, on what are the data, city by city, state by state, regarding, for example, policing. When we look at the victim that was murdered, they don't even have what are the rates of black men and black people being murdered, because no one is looking at that. We're talking about things from an emotional issue, and as you stated, we need research, data, hard research, not just in terms of what's wrong with black people.
All right, we have to conclude. All right, let's get a response, and that'll be the last word in terms of data.
I'll say this. First of all, that's a two-part answer. Number one, your local community colleges, state universities, HBCUs. We've been able to partner with the Cornwall Center at Rutgers State University, and they've come to the table with us, Marcus, and they've been great at setting that base point. And then the White House has set us up with some great folks at Policy Link, and we're also working with Strive. There's some, and I think this communication, this is a great thing about the National Action Network. We have to have this dialogue and communication so that when we network, we're aware of those groups that are there to aid us and support us, and just to go down and start. You can start right where you are. If you want to be a group and say, we're going to be the data group out of our city to show our base points where we are right now. But you're going to have to take the initiative, and as you get the ball rolling, rolling, right? A moving stone gathers no moss. If you start to move that stone, you'll begin to see these indicators not only in hard data, but you'll be able to have your own reports, and that empowers you, and then that gives you the access that you need. So I would say not only would you take that initiative, but tap into the White House, tap into these folks who are here today and the groups that we're working with and who we're using, so that when we step to Prudential, they say, you meet the requirements needed for us to give you $1 million, because that's what I'm about to get from Prudential, I'm telling you right now.
All right, we have to conclude the panel. Let's give it up for this tremendous panel. David Jefferson Jr., Carlos Chavras, Broderick Johnson, Brian Pauling, Tracy Martin, the Reverend Charles Edward Williams II, and Brother Michael Cummings.